The very thing you've been treating as proof that something is wrong with you is, in my eyes, proof that you belong to me. What you've called failure has never defined you. It has always been a mark of my presence on your life. I'm not talking about the wound you try to hide whenever someone gets too close. I'm not talking about the scar you apologize for before anyone even asks about it. I'm talking about a deeper mark. A seal placed upon your heart long before pain ever found its way to you. So stay here with me for a moment. There is no need to rush. You don't have to gather yourself together or pretend you're stronger than you feel. Come exactly as you are, tired, worn down, and carrying burdens no one else can see. Let me sit beside those broken places without asking you to repair them first. As you listen, I want to remind you of a truth that has stood firm for generations. It is a truth powerful enough to silence the voice that keeps calling your survival a failure. That voice has been announcing a verdict over your life, but my word settled the case long ago. The accusation has already been overturned. You may believe your story has been falling apart piece by piece, but look again. The real story is this: you're still standing. You're still breathing. You're still here after seasons that should have crushed you. That is the story heaven tells about you, not the one whispered in the darkness when no one is around to challenge your fears. My word speaks the truth about your life. Let it become louder than every lie you've believed. I see you. I remember the mornings when simply getting out of bed felt like lifting a weight no one else could understand. I saw the friend who slowly stopped checking in, and I watched the moment you convinced yourself it no longer mattered. You've kept a quiet record of every time you almost gave up, carefully remembering each painful moment as though it were written in a ledger. But I have never forgotten a single one. To the mother who worries she's failing the very children she loves more than her own life, I see you. To the father finishing another exhausting shift just to provide a safe home for his family, you are not invisible to me. To the one who comes home to an empty house and has learned to make peace with the silence, you are fully known. Even your prayers have changed. Some nights they become nothing more than a deep breath, too heavy for words. I've heard every one of those silent cries. Not one tear, not one sigh, not one whispered plea has escaped my attention. And I have never stood at a distance with folded arms, watching without compassion. I have always been near. I have always been gentle. I have always been holding you closer than you realized. And perhaps it's time for you to see what I have always seen. I am proud of the courage you've shown simply by refusing to quit. Now let me speak to every heart that has been carrying this burden alone, believing no one could possibly understand. You may have believed you were carrying this burden all by yourself, but you never were. I see the person holding an entire family together while living with an illness that never seems to leave. I see the one who waits until the shower is running before allowing the tears to fall, hoping no one else will notice the pain. Somewhere along the way, you've forgotten what it feels like to be the one receiving comfort instead of always giving it. I see the one who received the phone call that changed everything, yet somehow keeps smiling through every family gathering as though nothing happened. I see the person lying awake at night, staring at unpaid bills, adding and re-adding numbers in the darkness, believing the balance in a bank account somehow measures the value of a human soul. I see the young heart that followed every rule, worked harder than expected, and still feels left behind. Still wondering why everyone else seems to have life figured out while you feel like the disappointment in the room. And I see the older heart looking back over decades of memories, quietly asking, did my life truly matter? Did I do enough? Was I enough? I've heard every one of those questions. And I already know the answer. Yes. But I don't want to rush past your pain with quick words. Before I answer your questions, I want to sit beside you in them. I want you to know my presence before you hear my promises. Listen carefully. You've misunderstood the story your scars have been telling. Every wound you've carried has become, in your mind, another piece of evidence that you somehow weren't strong enough. You look at the places where life hurt you and assume they prove you failed. But when I look at those same scars, I see something completely different. I see the places where life tried to destroy you, and didn't. I remember the nights when grief felt unbearable, when you wondered if morning would ever come. Then I watched you wake up, place your feet on the floor, and take one more step. I remember the trust that was shattered by someone who promised they would never hurt you. And I watched the incredible courage it took for you to open your heart again after everything you had been through. Those moments are not signs of weakness. They are reminders that something deep within you refused to surrender. And that strength was never yours alone. It was my hand carrying you when you believed you were carrying yourself. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from believing you have to carry every burden by yourself. You've spent so long gripping your life with fear, convinced that if you relaxed for even a moment, everything would collapse. And that somehow the blame would be yours. That kind of weariness isn't fixed by another night's sleep. It is healed by learning to rest in loving hands. You've spent so many years holding yourself together that you've forgotten you were never meant to carry the full weight alone. I've been beneath you all along. I've been catching every burden before it could crush you. And I have never left your side. You didn't wake up one day believing your scars made you guilty. No child enters this world thinking their pain is their own fault. That belief was taught to you, and for many, it was learned long before they even realized it. Maybe you grew up in a home where love felt conditional, where affection had to be earned, where approval came only after you performed well, and disappeared the moment you simply needed comfort. Maybe you lived under voices that constantly reminded you of what you lacked instead of celebrating what was already growing inside you. Perhaps you were surrounded by people who always noticed your mistakes while overlooking your quiet victories. Maybe it even happened in a place that claimed to represent me, a place where your value was measured by what you could accomplish instead of who you were. When your hands were busy serving, you were praised. But when your heart simply needed someone to hold it, the room became silent. Over time, a quiet lie settled deep inside you. It whispered that your wounds were proof of failure, and that surviving them meant very little. But that was never my voice. The picture of me you inherited may have been shaped by broken people who only knew a harsh version of love. They passed on what they had received. Yet I have been standing beside that false story all along. Not to condemn you for believing it, but to gently replace it with the truth, one layer at a time. Right now, pause for just a moment. Look at something nearby. Don't judge it. Don't decide whether it's beautiful, valuable, or useful. Simply notice that it exists. It doesn't have to prove its worth to remain where it is. It isn't earning your attention. It is simply being. That is much closer to the way I look at you. Not as a judge waiting for your defense. Not as someone keeping score. I am not putting your life on trial. I am holding your life with love. Stay with that thought for a moment. Just as your eyes quietly rest on what is before you, let your heart rest in the truth that you are deeply loved. Somewhere along your journey, you were introduced to a version of me that never reflected my heart. You were taught to imagine a God who keeps a record of every mistake while overlooking every act of faith. A God waiting at the finish line with crossed arms, ready to question why you stumbled, why you took so long, or why your journey left visible scars. Deep down, you've wondered if your broken places would make me step away from you. So you hide them. You learn to appear strong. You give the expected answer whenever someone asks how you're doing. You wear a smile that hides battles no one else can see. But you never had to hide from me. I have always seen every scar, every tear, every silent struggle. And knowing all of it has never caused me to move farther away. It has only drawn me closer. If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Please like, comment, share this message with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more faith-filled encouragement. May God bless you and keep you always.